Hold not your jukebook too lazily. Dream not its heart so carelessly.
I must talk about my limitations so that others can explore theirs, because so many people are just the same. That's all I'll care to do, because like I felt so disconnected. I longed and yearned for someone to help me connect myself, and that's all I sought. I didn't realize that I had to connect it for myself. I just wanted somebody else to give it to me.
Hello, my lovers. Welcome back to Unbroken Chain. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Mara James, hanging out this week with our friend Nick Nail. Nick has been a new friend here in Birmingham, Alabama. He's been around our house quite a bit the last several months, and he's been playing music with our housemates and Daniel. And from the first day that Daniel met him, he came back from a long walk together and told me about this beautiful, gentle soul who he had connected with very deeply, really quickly, and had just drastically changed some of the ways that Daniel was looking at some of the trauma from his past and some of the negativity that he's encountered in his life. And I have to say that from the time that I've spent with Nick, that's absolutely true. He is one of the gentlest, most open souls I've ever encountered. I feel like Nick makes space for anyone that's around him to be exactly who they are, and for that to be okay, and has an ability to see his own consciousness and talk about it in a way that is so compassionate. It just makes that kind of compassion the obvious path in the way that we deal with everything in this life, other people and our own selves. This conversation was recorded a few days after Nick had gone through about a week of detoxing from heroin, which, as you'll hear in this conversation, happened in the living room of our house at the suggestion of our housemate Ananda, who's another beautiful teacher friend, episode 76, if you haven't listened. What that looked like, what Nick coming off of heroin looked like to me, was him laying on that couch and really not moving for the better part of 5 days. Ananda and our other housemates were cooking him nutritious food, most of which he wasn't able to eat, more than a few bites here and there, massaging his muscles, just sitting and holding space, sitting and talking quietly with each other or playing a little music, just being around and being available and making it clear that Nick was part of something, even though he was clearly in a lot of pain. He was part of a bigger web of community and belonging, no matter what he was dealing with internally. And I think people like Nick that have experiences really at the margins of what we consider mainstream culture have such a valuable perspective, because I think people on the quote-unquote outside have a much better perspective on what's happening inside than those of us that are deeply invested in these systems can see in ourselves or can see about them. People who very early on in their lives realize that they're not able to navigate so many of our systems, and fundamentally because they're destructive and soul-crushing, a lot of them, those people face so much compounded shame by the labeling that we put on drug users and people who don't want to pursue the academic track. There's so many ways in which we create a hierarchy of value about the humans around us and then predetermine the way that we interact with them based on that. And I'm so grateful to Nick for sharing his observations of himself and really for speaking so openly about one of the most stigmatized substances in our collective awareness, which is heroin, something I don't have personal experience with. And I think most of the stories that I associate with it are negative, which of course colors the way that I think about people who use heroin and heroin energy in general. And I'm certainly not saying that anyone will come out of this conversation thinking, oh, heroin sounds pretty great. But I do think that after listening to a conversation like this, it's really hard to think that certain substances or experiences or people are inherently good or bad. It's like, well, what are we doing here? How are you using it? What is the intention? Why is this happening? And who do you want to be? I heard someone say recently that everyone is always in one of two states, which is either emitting love into the world around them or crying out for it desperately. And that's just one lens to wear to like shift the picture of how we see the people around us and how we could possibly interact to lessen the suffering of the world. I know we all want that. I know we're all striving to manifest that in our own lives and our communities. And it's really humbling to me to remember again and again from people like Nick that actually looks a lot simpler than we think it does. You know, world peace is not something out there. It's within each of us in all of our actions and truly in our own consciousness about how we understand the world and what we're all doing here. So thank you for listening and bringing an open heart into this space. I want to issue a content warning for this episode, which does deal with child sexual abuse. And also just say that Daniel joined for this conversation, so you'll hear him in the mix also. I'm going to share a poem that a friend sent me recently to send us into this conversation. It's called Self-Portrait, and it's by David White. It doesn't interest me if there is one God or many gods. I want to know if you belong or feel abandoned, if you know despair or can see it in others. I want to know if you're prepared to live in the world with its harsh need to change you. If you can look back with firm eyes saying, "This is where I stand." I want to know if you know how to melt into the fierce heat of living, falling towards the center of your longing. I want to know if you are willing to live day by day with the consequences of love and the bitter, unwanted passion of your sure defeat. I have been told, in that fierce embrace, even the gods speak of God. Here is the beautiful Nick Nail.
Right now I'm excited, actually. It's like today I've been spending a lot of time trying to see my thoughts or what I believe my thoughts to be, and then like trying to step beside those thoughts and just try to see this versus what I'm telling myself this is.
Not the illusions, but the actual thing.
Because words are like not this. This is beyond words. Words are just limitations upon here, and I don't believe this is limited. Even though we're using words as a tool to connect, it's just an illusion of connection in that regard, but it is a real connection that we're making, not because of the words, but because of the vibrations of our beings together. Mm. And I'm trying to just pay attention to the vibrations and not the words.
When you're experiencing the vibrations, are you seeing them? Are you feeling them?
It's a feeling. It's not actually seeing anything, but it's just like knowing it. I really enjoy using the thoughts with intention to imagine things, because it's like the only limitations are just lack of imagination. Mm-hmm. Like your potential is beyond what I see, so I'm doing what I know to do to allow you to reach beyond that so that I can do the same.
Do you feel like, I wonder sometimes though in a way that like being human and being in a human incarnation sort of is a limitation, a limiting factor. It's almost like consciousness poured itself into this vessel to be like, what is it like if I'm constricted by these parameters?
Through limitations, we're allowed to grow. It's like without limitation, there is no, that's kind of like the nothing. And it's like within that nothing spawns everything, but it's the limitations which defines boundaries. Without limitations, there's no growth.
What are you growing right now?
Knowing that what I do is the right thing. It's like allowing what I am able to do and beyond to serve a purpose that is not my own, but that is our own, and trying to create that.
I'm curious about your story. Would you share a little bit about your childhood? And
Definitely. My very first memory that I have is being molested, like as a very young child. But at that time, I had no understanding, was very young, to the point that I had no understanding of sexuality or the nature of sexuality. And it came about in a way that it wasn't forced upon me, but it was being groomed into the situation. And so I understand that it split my psyche at the time in a way that I couldn't express the reality that I was experiencing other than feeling it. But not being able to express the thing that I was experiencing created two parts of myself, because when I came into the understanding that it wasn't right, then it was a thing of that I've done something wrong, because this isn't right. This is the wrong thing. So I realized that I couldn't speak on what was happening, but I didn't necessarily experience it as wrong before that. So that very much split it in the understanding of, well, I knew that my being could do these things and feel pleasure in them, but then life tells me that thing is wrong. Therefore, it's like causing the split in that being. And until I could see that and find both sides of myself, I experienced a lot of time in my life where I was being pushed by energy to act ways that I sought comfort in, but I wasn't understanding why I was, and not just drugs, but like anything. As a younger person, like in my childhood, very much always needing a companion, in the sense of like having a girlfriend or having someone that I could connect with, that allowed me to feel grounded or feel better able to see. Yeah.
I'm curious where you started healing and like learning to see your own thought patterns and see what happened in your childhood with new perspective.
It's like I don't ever feel like I like blocked out memories or had to like refine my memories or things of that nature, but I do feel like I think we were talking about it earlier, Daniel, in the sense of like just like pretending something didn't happen, like just kind of just saying like, oh well, that didn't happen kind of thing, and like being able to just kind of live as if something wasn't as it was, which kind of is a strength in itself in a way, to be able to experience information or experience something that is hard, but then be able to not let it affect the way that you behave or do, so that you can still do what you have to do. But to say that I don't think I was able to really come into a full understanding about my own trauma, because I never felt like I experienced trauma. Like that wasn't trauma to me in my mind. But then understanding that it was my innocence being taken from me without my permission, when I understood it that way, that's when I understood that I had been hurt, I guess, that it was hurt, that's why I hurt, that's why that I want to feel good. That's what made me not feel good. You know what I mean? Well, until I was 7, I was just an only child. But when I was about 4 or 5, my dad had an affair on my mom, and at that point they got divorced. And he went to Alabama, went to business school, and was in a good job at Birmingham. After a while, they ended up getting back together, and my mom got pregnant with my sister. When that happened, my dad quits his job and decides to become a preacher. So my childhood I experienced until I was 7. Until then, I experienced my dad as, a business kind of guy from Birmingham. Very particular type of person, a very particular way that he would behave in life. And when he got back together with my mom and became a preacher, his behavior changed. And it was like I witnessed the experience of that, but then my sister didn't. So growing up, it was a very weird thing because like I understood a lot about my parents and just my familial situation that she didn't necessarily understand or wasn't really a part of. So it's like I didn't experience a very good relationship with my sister growing up in that regard. Because by the time that I was a teenager, seeking comfort through, so seeking comfort through cannabis, for instance. When I was like 12, that was the first time that I smoked cannabis. And it was just like a friend and I got a joint and we smoked a joint. That was it. But somehow a friend at school found out and called my parents and told them that, I had smoked a joint. And my parents treated it very much like, oh, you're a drug addict. Like you have to go to rehab. You have to, you have to go to the counselor. You have to do all these things. And they took me to multiple psychiatrists and
for smoking one joint.
They treated me as if I was a black sheep. I mean, it was very, very because even I at that age was it's really no big deal. It's not that big of a deal. It's not, And I didn't even feel like it was a big deal at the time. But they treated it like it was such a thing. And it's still, even then, it didn't even I was never oh, that's probably bad. I shouldn't do that again. It's not a big deal. I'm going to continue doing this whether you tell me I'm not going to do this or not. But at the same time, it wasn't even about doing it. It was just, being a kid, just wanting to, experiment or whatever. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that once they put that label on me, that was a thing that I could never escape. All the people in my life were then privy to the label of me being that because of my parents, being in a church situation and, everybody being, privy to the gossip of everyone else and, that type. But to say that, I very much felt like I was in a role and I was, no matter what I did, that's what I was. Not necessarily just somebody that smoked, cannabis, but, a drug user or a bad person. So basically what I'm trying to get at is I've always sought comfort outside of my family in regards to having a girlfriend or having someone in my life that is that I can feel like is family, that is close, that I love and care about, and they love and care about me and make me feel purpose, which is what I feel right now. So it's just I couldn't ask for more if I wanted to, and it's just so beautiful that it is.
You're making me remember that I can really take that for granted, that's what we're all here to do, actually learn how to love people.
And I think for me, it's when people allow me to break my own boundaries is when I feel loved. And that's why I want to allow other people to break the boundaries which they define themselves by. Being seen as something more than who you thought you were that makes me feel really good. Yeah.
Well, because we are all infinite.
That even in our limited beings, When I got into high school, I ran track. I worked. I had a few jobs in high school, so I would co-op at school and go to school half the day and then go to work half the day kind of thing. And I enjoyed skipping school in high school a lot. I definitely explored a lot of drugs in high school. But in high school, since I was running track and doing other things, for the most part, I smoked cannabis some. At the time, the only thing that was really available was brickweed from Mexico. So it was the cheap, very low quality buds, but they were all filled with seeds and stems and stuff. But in a way, that was good because that was friends of mine and myself. We were able to get seeds to grow very easily, and that was something that we ended up doing. Whereas now, it's that's not really a thing anymore. It's just funny. But there, I didn't really even experience, medical cannabis or anything like that. It wasn't really until I went to college that I even understood that was a thing. So just to say, as much as I explored some drugs in high school, I lived in a very small town and there was just not much there to even explore. I experienced what I experienced early on, but it was like I was able to act as if that didn't happen. So I was still doing things in my life in a way that wasn't trying to hurt myself. That I wasn't trying to seek comfort because I was hurting. I didn't realize that, like, running track or doing other things, those things brought me joy because it was a way that I could, it was like a meditation, it's being in a state of, communion with myself, like testing myself so that I'm having to analyze myself and be with myself. I can't escape it, I'm stuck there. So in a way that those things brought me, comfort in doing those. When I get out of high school, and that was very much, like, from an early age, I understood my life to be like, my dad went to Alabama, he went to business school, like, I got to go to business school in Alabama. And so that was what I, like, it's not that I perceived myself as that person, but I understood that my dad perceived it as such, and that was expected of me. That was okay with me. I was okay with doing that. That wasn't something that I was, not wanting to do. But it's like when I went, very early on, I didn't enjoy a lot of the people, even being in another education situation of being educated instead of being able to just educate myself or being able to, like, just learn what I want to learn, being told what I'm having to learn, was just very unsettling, and it's like being told you can succeed at something if you jump through hoops, you know what I mean? But
it's conditional.
Right. At that time, it's like I really just didn't even know what I wanted. I had no really direction other than what I was being told my direction was. And it's like when I realized that, like, I don't have to listen to what someone tells me my direction is, I can find my own direction. Here's what made me find my direction. It wasn't my conscious choice, though. It was so when I was in high school, I would always have a girlfriend. It's like I would get a girlfriend and I would date them, and because I fall in love with everybody. You know what I mean? It's like I would fall in love with somebody, and that would be, I'd have the biggest crush on them and just want to, love them to death. But as a young person, it's like nobody can handle that as a young person. You know what I mean? Even myself. And it's like being able to expect things like that to work out. I put too much of my being into that instead of into myself, to the point that, like, when my relationships would end, it would cause me the most turmoil because I wasn't working on myself. I was trying to work on, not them, but together, like work on a relationship. But it's like with somebody who's not necessarily trying to work on a relationship either, it was like never really being in sync or never really connecting. I enjoy doing things for other people to make them feel happy. And it's a lot of times in relationships that I would be in, someone would ask for something, but it's like, how do I know what's going to make me happy until I'm happy? If I'm asking for something because I think it's going to make me happy, I don't really know if it is or not, and you get it from me and I'm not happy, then it's like I experienced a lot of miscommunication, and it cost me a lot of pain and wanting to understand how to better communicate so that doesn't happen, so it's so when I was, like, late high school, I started dating this girl for like 4 years or so, and I was really close to her. I was really close to her family. One of the first, like, real jobs I had, I worked as a plumber, and I worked for her dad, who owned a business. He owned his own thing, and it was really great though because it was just he and I. He was a master plumber, so he'd been doing it a long time, and you have to do like 10 years to get your license in that at Alabama. So he knew what he was doing, and he really kind of showed me how to do that and kind of gave me an ability to make money and to work. And that wasn't related to college. That wasn't related to somebody educating me in that way. It was something that, like, that I could do on my own. I mean, I'm being taught, but I'm being taught with my hands and not with words. And I just could relate to that a lot better than I could with words in a way. So when I went to Alabama, she was younger than me. She was in high school one more year. And after that, she was going to come to Alabama as well. Well, after the year was over, she went elsewhere while telling me that she was coming there, to the point that, like when we were going to move in, she just, like, stopped answering my phone calls. And it's like knowing somebody for 4 years and then just being, like, ghosted by them. It's like, well, like, I didn't know how to handle that. It's another moment in my life where I couldn't express the feelings that I had about what I was experiencing. which that very much made me like just lose my sense of direction at all. It's like my sense of who I thought I was, because I defined myself by the relationship that I was in a way. That kind of made me really like not want to, do anything at all at that point, except for seek comfort somewhere. So at that point, I moved back to Birmingham. I started working for her dad again, even though like she wasn't talking to me, which was really wild. But like she was going to college somewhere else, so it's not like I really had to see her or anything. But it was just I don't know, crazy. To be honest, it's like he's one of my favorite people in life because he taught me so many things. My dad didn't. I'll tell a crazy story. My dad's mom and his dad, they got married. They had 3 kids. He was the youngest. When they had him, they got divorced, and she then marries that husband's or ex-husband's father. So my father was raised by his grandfather as his father figure. So my dad didn't necessarily have a normal father in the sense of his grandfather was a lot older, so he didn't really get to experience a normal dad would be in that way, I guess. He felt much more distant and didn't get to see his dad very often. So I think in some regards, he didn't really know how to be a dad in a way. And he didn't know how to be a dad to me, to the point that like a lot of peers I would experience where their dads would show them things, how to do things, how to be a person. And it's like I didn't experience that. I just experienced judgment from my parents. So to say that when I was working for her dad, it was very good experience because I felt him to be very much a father figure. And he really did care about me and helped me move forward in life in a way that I felt my own dad was just kind of like, you're a real failure, you know what I mean? But he was saying I'm a failure without necessarily saying, here's how you don't be a failure. He's just saying, you're a failure. Versus this person being like, hey, you may be a failure, but here's how to not be one. So, that's nice. So, yeah. Kind of dated another girl for a while. This is the first time I've really experienced like a real genuine understanding of who, like knowing that I really do actually love someone versus like I'm just trying to seek comfort in a companion or something, or like I actually found someone who I connected with very strongly. And when this person was about 13, their father died. So they experienced a lot of trauma in early childhood. But to the point that they lacked that, figure in their life, and they deeply sought it, to the point that when I became in a relationship, it was very, I felt purpose for the first time. Because this person, in my mind, how I saw it, needed me, like, in a way that they expressed that. That was, really good in a way. I think I'll say it this way. It's like in my own foreshadowing. The reason that her father died, he died from hepatitis C that he contracted in the 70s from using heroin then. Like nowadays, people are able to be cured from hepatitis apparently, but at that point there wasn't one, and he died before that became available. So I was experiencing a good point of life at that point. And it's like, at one point, we were kind of fighting some. We take some time apart. And during this time apart, I'm probably about maybe 22 or so. I think I was just somewhere, and I was with a friend. And basically, a friend just offers me some heroin in Birmingham. And I remember doing it, and like going out to my car, just like doing it and then going to my car. And then waking up, and then I'm like, my legs are in my car and my body's out of my car, and being like shaken awake. And it's my girlfriend at the time, and she's like, what the fuck what's happening? Like, are you okay? Are you dying? Are you dead? What's going on? And it's like, I'm still very, intoxicated, and I'm not really able to speak. I'm slurring my words. So she calls her mom to come and pick me up because she's really upset and she can't deal with me. And her mom, when she gets there, immediately understands what's going on because, of her husband and, the experience that she had. So she immediately, sees it as that way. But it's like at that point, it was just coming back to like, I was just seeking comfort and just, anything I could find that was comfortable to me. I would think that like, that would have scared me enough to not wanting to do it again. But it's like it very much kind of just made me feel numb to things in a good way for me, that like I was able to kind of escape from my pain. And it's like when I realized that there was a means that I could escape that was that powerful. It became something that I sought out for that reason. And it's like that kind of became the focus, just wanting to have comfort and being able to feel that in a way that until then I experienced a lot of social anxiety in life and just like not wanting to express myself and being able to, or struggling, trying to just perceive everything and then be able to like put back my part in it. But once I was in a state of, comfort and bliss from allowing myself to get to a particular point of numbness, it's like I realized, I could, knock myself out with it, but I could also do just enough so that I could want to be engaging people and want to be doing things, but then feeling still comfortable, not feeling pain, but still being able to be myself, and even like feeling like I'm going beyond myself and feeling like I'm growing. Those were things that happened. I use it for comfort, and I use it to allow me to, move forward in my life. But eventually, I'm working jobs where I'm making good money, but I'm paying most of my money away in that, which I was able to do that. But it was just a very narrow road. It's like at some point, it's like most people, like my family kind of becomes aware because the people in my life, like girlfriends or whoever, are, expressing it to them and telling them and, just trying to, help me in a way. To the point that, like, my parents kind of give me a, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they kind of, like, surprise me and, like, hey, you're going to rehab kind of thing, you know what I mean? Like, hey, like, you got a problem, you know what I mean? Yeah, intervention, there we go, that's it, that's the word. Which at the time, I didn't make the decision to go there. It was just it was kind of like, hey, you have to go here and get help, or, we're not going to, be in your life anymore. And at that point in my life, what brought me comfort was, the heroin, not necessarily my family. So it's like, in my head, I'm like, well, why am I going to do that for you guys when this thing's giving me comfort? You know what I mean? Like, you're causing me pain right now. Once I went, I understood, how it felt to not feel those things, like how it felt to feel bad for a while and then, come back and feel good not having to find something to, like, relieve my pain from, or, like, relieve my, like, feelings of badness, like, feelings that I don't want to deal with. But I realized then, too, it's like when you hide from pain, you don't escape from pain. You only, like, temporarily delay it. And it's like an understanding that I just didn't mind feeling pain for a while because I could handle it. I could handle, so much pain. And then eventually the girl that I was with decides that she doesn't want to be with me anymore because, she didn't want, the person that she loved to die. And that makes perfect sense, you know what I mean? That's totally reasonable. But it's like I just, that really broke my heart. And it was like, again, found myself without direction. I'll say that. I found myself in another place without direction. And I decided, like, okay, I wanna do something not this. Kind of going to work every day and just feeling not happy. I'm going to work and I'm making money, but I'm spending all my money. I'm not in a state of peace. I'm just in a state of constant, discomfort and longing for other things. I remember I was, like, coming off of some drugs at the time, and I was really cold. And I just remember thinking really much, like, I just really want to be somewhere warm. And at the time, I had enough money saved up to where I could afford a plane ticket to Hawaii. I bought a one-way plane ticket, and I moved to the Big Island. And that was, like, a really wonderfully, terribly awful experience. So many things happened that really steered my life to where it is now. I took a skateboard and I just kind of skated around the whole place. But I worked on some different farms. I met some really wonderful people. It was exactly what I needed at the time, but it was what I thought it was going to be, what I thought I was trying to do, what I thought I wanted, versus, like, how it played out was, way different. It was there that I found a lot of sense of direction and just inner knowing of who I am and what I'm here to do. I was thinking, like, I'm just really tired of, like, small town places, like, just want to be somewhere where, like, people are more, more understanding about reality and not so, close-minded about things. So I'm thinking I'm going to Hawaii. That's really good. That's a really open-minded place. It is. It really is an open-minded place. It's a wonderful place. But, like, the Big Island, to get from one side all the way around it back to the same place, it only takes, like, 4 hours. So it's really not that big of a place, you know what I mean? It's another small town, really. It's actually, 4 hours around by car, so it's a big deal to skate around the whole thing. But to say that when I was there, I met the first person I understood to be a host of a spirit, higher than a human spirit. When I first met him, he was wearing only a loincloth and nothing else. And he's like very, very a muscular person. And we make friends, and we talk for a while. And he begins to start sharing his diet with me, that he doesn't eat food at all. He only like makes a tea, and he drinks tea, and that's all he consumes. Like seeing his being, seeing how he was, and to hear that was just like, I couldn't understand. It's like I wasn't prepared for it, but I was experiencing it. You know what I mean? Like I knew that this was a real person in my life, but at the same time, I was just like blown away that this was a thing. So he invites me back to his camp out area, which is on the side of this waterfall, like tucked away, like underneath some like trees. It was the most divine place. So me and a friend of mine, and then him, all go there, and we're sitting on this like deck. And all of a sudden, all these like locusts and mosquitoes are just like swarming, like by like hundreds and thousands of them, are all over us. And he's sitting there in a loincloth, and my friend and I both have clothes on. But I mean, we're getting just like roasted by these things, just eaten up everywhere. And Amon is just sitting here like unbothered, unfazed, untouched by them. And it was just such a powerful experience to like witness it, to the point that like my friend and I had to leave. We couldn't occupy such a space. And Amon just was giggling so hard about it, and it was just so wonderful to experience that, and in a way that like it really like steered me in that direction. So I get in touch with him a different day, and he invites me to this place for dinner. When I get there, it is a Hare Krishna place that they are serving a meal and having like a service. So we all take off our shoes and we go inside and we eat, and they sing songs, and like everybody dances and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm sitting next to this lady, and her son comes up to her, and he's like, Mom, I'm finished eating. And all she says to him is like, okay, go and celebrate. And like in that moment, it was like my life, just the whole being of me just exploded, and it was just I finally understood that like I had never been given permission to like be happy, or to be able to celebrate, to be able to have joy. Anytime in my life when I felt good, I was made to feel bad about feeling good, because I'm a bad person. I do drugs or I do whatever, and it's like you don't have any reason to feel good. You're a bad thing. So it's like being able to see that it's possible that people, you can give he just got permission to celebrate. Like, man, I can give myself that, But knowing that in celebrating, it's like you can celebrate too much to the point that it's hard, or it's bad, it hurts you. Mm-hmm. At a certain point, it goes from making me feel like I'm celebrating to making me not feel good, to making me feel bad. And it's like learning how to celebrate. Just as I'm saying, is that I wasn't taught how to, or even given permission to. So having to then try to find the right way to be happy, the right way to experience joy. And at that point, I realized that like what I really wanted to do was share that joy that I was experiencing with the people who I loved in my life, which there was people there that I loved, that I met, that I was really close to, but there was many more people in my life who were back in the mainland that I would really I really just wanted to be present with and just share with. So I eventually came back to Birmingham, and I got started in a band playing music. It was a powerful, amazing experience. That was like one of the first times that I had been able to play in a band and feel connected with everybody. And like what we were doing wasn't just playing music, but we were, being vessels for something beyond ourselves. And it was with purpose. But eventually it just got to a point where it's like everybody has their own idea of what they're supposed to do, and who's to say that anybody's wrong for doing something that they feel led to do. All the things that we go through are just something to help us do better tomorrow. But when I experienced like that, from being a thing to then no longer being a thing, I experienced like a state of like a relationship breakup beyond what I had experienced ever in a romantic relationship, and it was just like very traumatic. And again, like I just I sought comfort. It was something that was beyond my ability to express, and I understood where I could find comfort at that point in my life. So again, I find myself back on drugs, and back on heroin, and wanting to just like find comfort. You know what I mean? Just like find that like ability where I can lay down at night and go to sleep, and not want to end my own life, like not want to not exist anymore. And it's like, and in some ways it's like stigmatized. Everybody's like, hey, if you do this thing, you're gonna die. And plenty of people die from heroin. But in my mind, it's it was one of those things of like, well, yeah, I might die, but if I do, that would just make things easier anyway. So it's like it's almost even I'm not trying to kill myself with it, but if I died, at least that wouldn't make it worse. You know what I mean? Like that's the mentality of it anyway. So at that point, I spend some time just kind of being alone and seeking comfort in that. And eventually that's not enough comfort. So I start reaching out and trying to meet new people, trying to make friends. I met my current girlfriend now, Emily. And the first day that I met her, it's like I just told her up front, who I was, what I was. I wasn't trying to hide anything from her or be something that I wasn't. And she didn't care and like was able to love me and give me love in a way that I wasn't able to love myself. And it was to the point that like she was loving me when I couldn't love myself, much less love her. You know what I mean? Like I tried to love her, but at the same time, like, how can I love her when I can't love myself, But her being able to do that really, like, it inspired me to the point that I didn't want to experience that and not be able to give that same amount of myself to her. But it's like, as much as I felt that way, she was comfortable, and I loved spending time with her, but it was still not enough for me to feel okay inside, because I wasn't okay with myself. I wasn't okay with where I was, and where I wasn't processing all of the information that I had in my head. Probably I've been dating her for about 4 years now. That's been a big inspiring relationship.
I'm going to ask you something.
Please.
When I first met you, something that was very clear from the beginning was just how open you are, and I think that you sensed that in me as well. Mm-hmm. It just felt like our first real conversation. We were both opening up about things from our childhood, and not necessarily good things. Definitely things that we had in common with both of our dads. Being in the ministry, that probably cracked a door open pretty quickly, but I just got the sense from you that you don't have a problem being around like any sort of person on this planet. You seem like you've traveled a lot and been in all different kinds of situations with people, and I think that made it really easy for me to open up with you on a really deep level, as I want to with anyone, but that doesn't always happen. But I felt that with you. But coming from kind of the background that you and I have come from, like, what was it, the things that like really opened you up? Did you always want that? To know people, to see the world, to know yourself better?
Being raised in the church situation, I was very affected by that, to the point that like I can remember being very early in my life, like expressing my own thoughts and being into like I don't necessarily I don't care about church, but I just want to be I just want to do something for the good of things, like do good. I just want to do for God, you know what I mean, like that. And that, but as much as that was my feelings, that wasn't what I was seeing. You know what I mean? I wasn't seeing the people that I was seeing express those things weren't doing the things that they were expressing. But it made me really want to do that. You know what I mean? It made me want to do that for real, and not necessarily just expressing those things, but doing the things.
You're not just talking about it.
Yeah. So like that kind of led me to an opportunity in a way. A missionary that lives in Ecuador, in Quito at the time, had done some work with a native tribe in the Amazon jungle called Tres Hijos, which is just like one older guy and his 13 sons. They all like kind of go and make their own village in the Amazon. And at the point when I went, there was 86 people there, like in the village. Like they were like, you know, that was their place in the jungle. Anyway, their water source wasn't good water, so their children were they were dying from drinking the water. So basically, because of my experience being a plumber and knowing about water, I know how to dig a well. And so I went with some people there to dig a well and to build a building for them. You know, I'm kind of expecting that I'm going there with a person who is. I was thinking the missionary that I was going to be with was just going to be a person who was going to be like kind of typical Christianity kind of thing of, you know, going to a, you know, third world country and saying, hey, you know, we're right, you're wrong, even though your culture is way older than ours is. You know, we know what's up and you don't. You know, that type of deal. And I didn't want to really be part of that. But I did want to go in because of the well. I did want to dig the well. I did want to help. But I was just very, not sure about what I was going to experience.
And you went with your dad too, right?
Yes.
So your dad hooked you up with this missionary, basically with this crew to go there.
Yeah. And there was probably about 10 people with the group of people that I went with, and they were all from like rural Alabama. So it's like very interesting group of people. Like not people that I probably would have chosen to go with, but I really had a great experience with all of them. It was really like, you know, good stuff. They were just really good people, and it was just very powerful. But it's like when I get there and I experience this person, like once again I find myself in a situation where like my own imagination is being broken by what I'm experiencing, in the sense that like when I meet this guy, it's almost just like he had an aura about him that was beyond normal. It was just he was a very he vibrated very strongly. To the point that like multiple times in his presence, like I found myself like uncontrollably sobbing. Like it was just very, very like unreal. But not because of just being in his presence or something like that, but being in a place to where somebody's actually doing something good and not just talking about it. They're fucking doing good and like really doing something good and being able to witness it, and then to say, oh my God, like that's possible. And like, what am I doing with myself when this person's doing this? Like how can I even, I'm not even worthy to be here. Like, because, you know, I'm here judging this person as if like he's just this bad Christian guy, when in reality I'm the judger here, like judging him for helping. And I'm seeing that like, wow, like I don't have to have judgment. I can just help. Like if somebody calls me or like says judgmental things about me for doing this, fuck them, because I'm helping. Like that's what it is I'm trying to do. And I saw that. I saw what it was to help. It's like at first when we met everybody in the village, it was, you know, we're a bunch of white people coming into their village. It's like, obviously they probably don't want us there, you know what I mean? Like that's how I felt in my head anyway. But then getting there and then meeting them. So most of the people that were in that village in particular, it's 15 miles into the Amazon jungle. So most of them like don't work at all or don't do anything, but they can grow food because it's on it's on the equator. So it's like, you know, you can grow food year round there. Some of them do work, but the ones that do make about $2 American a day for like very like long, hard labor. So it's just to say that they live in a very impoverished situation. You know, all the floors of their villages are like, you know, mud floors. And then going there, experiencing that level of quote unquote poverty, and then seeing the joy in all of those people, like me going and thinking that I'm trying to give them joy when they're like pushing out more joy than I have in my being. Not because we're coming to dig them wells, just because they're just joyful people. It's like, how can you be joyful if you're in poverty? But it's like their life isn't about, you know, being rich with like money. It's like it's being connected with their family, and it's just like and being connected to the earth and being connected to growing their own food. And because like while we were there, they ended up killing a chicken and making rice, and like that was like a really big deal, you know. So they fed us all chicken and rice, and it was just like a very like powerful dinner. At this point in my life, as much as I had been on heroin, I've done other drugs. Before I even began doing heroin, when I went to college, I very much explored LSD and nitrous oxide and I guess MDMA, just look, drugs that go around in colleges, just drugs that people try, sure. Any drugs that I could try, I was trying them, exploring my own consciousness, exploring the own boundaries of, you know, myself, not really realizing that's what I was doing, just trying to explore. But up until that point, I'd never really had a spiritual awakening or a spiritual experience, like an experience where I felt connected to what I would call God. You know what I mean? Like I never felt a connection. Me pushing energy that way, but then I never felt energy coming back that I could perceive as that. But then being there and experiencing that, and then after dinner, we go to a ceremony and are fed ayahuasca and chicha, and very much go on a mental exploration. And I found myself so connected and knowing that I was doing what I was supposed to do, and I was where I was supposed to be, knowing that from there that I just have to let go and just trust and just keep moving. And what is there that is needed, and what do I have to offer that can help the need be filled? Seeing and doing that opened my eyes to my connection to something beyond myself in a way that made me feel like what I was doing was real, and knowing it was real, and not just believing, just having faith that something beyond myself is real, but having an innate knowing that I'm connected to that thing. All the visions and visuals that I was experiencing in my mind were so profound that I found myself wanting to pull them from my being. And even from like a very young age, I can remember when I would be at school, I would get bored and I would just start, drawing. Drawing was something that I would do when I was bored, but only when I was bored. But at this point, I found myself again drawing. I don't feel like I was tracing something, but it's like I feel like I was seeing an image that I was able to pull onto the paper. And again, that was what I feel to be that connection, giving myself a physical, manifestation of that. So it's like, I don't need your proof anymore. Like, I have my own proof for myself that's that. That very much sent me into wanting to continually explore that, allowing what is beyond me that is connected to you all to speak to you just as I feel the same way from you. It's just that makes me want to grow. And it's since then I've understood that what I think isn't always right about people, because the people that I'm predispositioned about are not who I think they are. So when I meet people, I very much like to know them. I really want to connect deep with people. I want to, explore the boundaries. And it's like, but not everybody's ready to do that. Like you said, it's like some people, they're just not ready yet to let down those barriers that they have. Maybe that I can't let some of mine go, but it's like I'm aiming at that, and I see that you are as well, and in the way that taking care of the division, making connections. Some of my favorite people in the world are people that I wouldn't have thought, oh, I want to be friends with this person, or I think this person's really cool, or whatever. But then, I meet them and I give them a chance to, be themselves to me, and all of a sudden they're expressing something or saying something or doing something that is completely relevant or exactly what I needed, exactly what I was looking for, exactly what I wanted or whatever. When that happens, I'm so grateful, I'm so thankful. But it's like, how many times did I miss that? How many times did I not give a person a chance because I thought, oh, well, I'm this person, I won't like this person, or I just couldn't be friends with this type of person. But what is a type of person? And growing up, it's not that I didn't have any needs, but like my parents very much, they would keep food in the house and keep enough things so that like I never experienced like hunger as a child or like a lack of comfort in that regard. So what I'm trying to say is I couldn't relate to like what it would mean to be a homeless or without my own things, like without things. I didn't understand a life without things. And like through my own, like seeking of heroin or seeking of different things, putting myself in a situation where it's easier to just like not have a place and just be homeless because I then have enough money to then just spend it all on my drugs, or like spend it on something that I would rather spend it on than a place. It's like finding myself in a place to where my family, my parents or people that would once in my life allow me to stay at their houses, wouldn't allow me to stay there. Not being welcome at certain places that I was once welcome put me in a place to where I found myself in a homeless situation where I never thought I would be in. In that, it was so freeing finding myself there, because I'd never experienced what it meant to like have a lack of things, and I've always been very affected by having things. I've never liked having things. I don't like things. They're complications to me. Like, it's just more things that I'm having to think about and having to like, oh, that's my thing. You know, that's a thing that I have to put thoughts into that, and energy into that. So then I realized that like not having things, how free that is. Now, granted, as much as I was experiencing the freedom of not having things, I was also still experiencing the slavery of, you know, needing something to make me feel normal. Because it's like with heroin, it's like I would get high, like as I said, to the point that I was, you know, blacking out. But once I understood how to use it in a way that I would, you know, could control how much I was, you know, experiencing from it, it was to the point that like I needed it to feel normal, and if I didn't get it, then I would get sick. And you know, it's so needing that and having to like, you know, be a slave to that in a way, but then at the same time feeling free from everything in my life outside of that. I didn't mind continually doing that and living that way because every day was a new adventure, and every day it was unlimited potential and unlimited being. And because I would meet so many people, and I would, you know, like be affected by so many people and affect so many people. So just to say, being homeless though, it really allowed me to be friends and meet a lot of people who were in a place that I never thought that I would be in. So I probably would have never even given them a chance or like tried to be friends with them or try to talk to them in a way, because I would have seen myself maybe as above them or, you know, something like that. When I realized it's like being the earth as it is, the richest man in the world, the richest woman in the world has nothing. It's the earth. Like the earth is the richest, and that is our birthright, is the earth. You know, it's like we're here connected to this thing, and it is our sustenance, it's our beings. It's like that was all I really wanted anyway, not to be homeless, but to be free, to be free to do, free to be. And it was the first time in my life I experienced what that felt like, because I could do any day, I could do whatever I wanted to do at any time. But if I don't do anything, then I'm going to be hungry. If I don't do anything, I'm going to be this. Or if I don't do anything, I'm going to be that. Like, it's understanding that if I want something, or if I feel something, or if I, you know, need something, then I'm responsible for doing what I have to do to get that thing, you know, no matter what it is. If I fail at it, then nobody's going to, you know, have my back. You know what I mean? In that point in my head, and having to kind of like, again, make friends with people that I might be uncomfortable to make friends with or something, because I need help. I need, you know, people in my life, and I want to be here to help others as well, because that's, you know, again, part of it. Not everybody that feels homeless feels that way. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody that is homeless or feels homeless feels like that's where they want to be. A lot of people that will take advantage of other people who are homeless instead of going and taking advantage of people who have means, because it's easier to do that. You know what I mean? It's easier to take advantage of people when they're, you know, at a disadvantage. So I just experienced a lot of good things, but I experienced a lot of negativity and a lot of bad, and I just saw a lot of things that I never thought that I would have to see, or never thought that I'd want to see or be a part of, or whatever. And just understanding that really anybody can surprise me at any time with something amazing or something awful. But then understanding kind of the difference between the two, and then knowing, you know, I don't have to spend my time around somebody that makes me feel awful. If I'm trying to make people feel good, why do I want to be around somebody that makes me feel awful if I'm trying to make them feel good? It's like I don't have to do that. I don't have to subject myself to that. Whereas at one time, I maybe felt as if it would be rude to not do something. You know, I have to say that, like I'm not able to make my own boundaries or make my own decisions. You know what I mean? Like, I have to give something respect that isn't giving me respect in a way. And just understanding that I can make my own decisions and I'm, you know, free to do what I want to do, basically, is what that experience brought me to.
What was driving you to decide to stop heroin this most recently?
So I've known Ananda for a while. I remember, like, when I first met him, I was playing music with somebody else in a band, and we all ended up jamming together. And it was just so great. It was just such a great time. Yeah, after that night, I didn't see him for a while. I mean, for like probably even like a year or more. And then eventually I reconnected with him in Birmingham, And at that point, when he invited me over to jam, it was after I had been not playing music with anybody else. So I was just in a state of not playing in any bands, wanting to play music with people, but just not really having anybody that I would normally play with to be able to play with. And then also having sold all my instruments so I could buy heroin. Being in a state of not really having much to be able to jam with. But at the time I did have a keyboard. But when I first started playing music, I was more interested in playing guitar. But I would have never considered myself a piano player by any means. So anyway, Anand invites me over. I come over to the house and play some music. And it kind of turns into a ceremony in a way. And I had already felt so connected to him. And our paths just being aligned and understanding that this vessel can be used to serve a higher purpose than my own purpose. And him understanding that as well. And trying to give everyone a chance or give everyone a part or give everyone a piece if they want it is something that I've always felt to be what I know to do. And seeing him in the same manner, just it was really one of the most powerful jams that I've ever experienced. Because what I experienced was him surrendering himself to the music. As when I grew up, going to church and seeing people surrender themselves to God. Like God is music, God is the vibration of love. And I found myself in this awakened state of being that, and I'd always known that I was to play music and to make art and to do things, but I just knew at that moment that this is who I'm supposed to play music with. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I'm still in heroin and we're playing music together and stuff. And I'm open about it because I'm not trying to hide who I am, but I also understand that it is what it is, and I've never been one to try to push it onto other people or ever try to share it or anything just because of the nature of it. I have never minded telling people, if I did it, if I was doing it, I wouldn't mind, admitting that or saying that. But I also understand that there's a lot of stigma with a lot of people. So if I were to say that to some people, they might not want me to come over or do whatever because they would think I'm a certain type of person or, whatever. And I'm not saying I'm a good person and doing heroin or a bad person doing heroin. I'm just saying, that's the stigma on there. So sometimes I wouldn't always choose to share that with everybody because not everybody understands, and I get it. But I shared it with him and everybody that I'd been playing music with here. But they loved me anyway. They didn't care, and that was cool. And that made me feel really good and loved and cared for. And Ananda suggested that we go to Asheville. And I was very about that. I wanted to do that. But going to Asheville meant that I was going to have to spend 2 days away from Birmingham, or longer, 3 days. I think we ended up staying 4 days. I have to either get enough heroin to last through the whole experience, or decide to quit, or just experience whether I was deciding to quit or not. Experience a series of bad days before I decide to start back when it's possible. But taking enough, I was able to be present and play music and do what we were there to do. Because if I wouldn't have done that, then I would have just been sick the whole time. I would have just been there. But it turned into this experience that allowed me to see the limitations that it brought when it comes to playing music. When I was there having to go get it, I would spend a couple of hours in the day having to go find some. Well, then by the time I get back, it's been 2 or 3 hours, and that's 2 or 3 hours that we could have been jamming, and making money doing that, instead of me having to go and need something in order to do that. And I think this kind of, back to the foreshadowing, some people in life say, hey, you're a failure. That's that. And some people say, hey, you're a failure, but here's how to not be one. Here's a tool to be better than you are beforehand. Mm-hmm. And it's to tell people anything like that, but then not offer them the tool to help is kind of obnoxious, obviously. But Ananda he didn't even say, hey, I think you're a failure, or I think you're doing something wrong. He said, hey, you could just stay at my house if you wanted to quit, and I'll take care of you. Because he saw in me speaking on it that it was something that was limiting me, and that just inspired me to want to do that. Because it's not even that I see that thing as a wrong thing, so much as I see it as a limitation on my ability to, be better than I am. I'm so thankful to have someone in my life and people in my life who offer me tools to be better than I am. I just want to be a tool and offer tools to help people be better than they are. And like this whole podcast is exactly that, because it's a thing that is like, it's a reflection of who I am, and I can reflect on that and grow from that. And I'm thankful that I can share it, and thankful that you're here to listen and take it in. And yeah,
I really enjoyed having your spirit around this house.
Yeah.
Yeah, your energy is just, it's really beautiful and loving, and playing music with you has been really a joy, and talking and drawing, and yeah.
Witnessing your determination in going through that too was really powerful, because I know that wasn't comfortable, and just knowing that you had chosen that because of your faith of who you'd be here, it was really amazing.
I'm thankful to be able to have shared that. And it's like, I definitely couldn't have done it alone. But even not alone, even with everyone and all the love, it's like I still felt many moments of like, I'm just going to give up now. Like, this is, I'm not okay. But because of the love, it's like I wouldn't dare do that. I wouldn't dare go and go against what I said that I was going to do. Nobody put me up to that. Nobody said, you have to do this, because if you don't, you're wrong. I said that. So it's like, if I don't do that, then I'm going against what I'm saying. And I couldn't possibly do that when somebody's offering me a tool to go beyond what I'm saying. And I think also knowing, though, in the back of my head, like, if I just make it a few more days, just make it a few more days, it'll just get better, just get better from here. Just, being in a state of consciousness and processing my information, and not trying to run from the things that hurt me or the things that cause me pain, but to feel those things, because hiding from them, as I was saying earlier, it doesn't make them go away. It just temporarily delays them until, I get away from the things that are comforting me again, whether it's heroin or something else. It's just something that's keeping me from, dealing with the things that are bothering me, or dealing with the things that I need to be processing and dealing with and moving through. And I feel that so much here, but I feel like the presence of all of you is that it's like I'm just a reflection of you all. I'm so grateful, and I feel so much love. There's just like so much potential, and I really enjoy seeing potential. And like from the first time that I played with you on the drum, like when you were playing on the drums, Daniel, and then I think I was playing on the piano or something, you were kind of telling me that you had not been playing very often before that. To then seeing that, and then seeing you want to get a drum set again, and then like even that day I thought that I was blown away at how amazing that you are on the drums. But like seeing you like just take it even further beyond that since then is just like so powerful and so inspiring. And
well, you're so encouraging. You and Ananda's spirit, especially together, and Justin as well, who also lives in the house. I just feel so encouraged to be exactly who I am, where I am. And in any moment. That's new, and that's not just about my childhood. That's just like even in my adult life, being able to be around other artists or just creative spirits who, it's an open floor. There's actually space available for you to explore who you are, whether that be with an instrument or a paintbrush in your hand, or through how you're speaking with someone. It's available, and that feels so fresh. And so I do feel like from moment to moment that, like, hey, I didn't know I could do this on drums. Like, I didn't know that, like, if I just let go of what I think everybody else wants me to do, and I just be who I am, and I just explore, that can be good. That can be beautiful and heart expanding too.
Man, it's like seeing the tools that allow us to break our own boundaries and being able to like share them with people. Nothing else really makes me feel the way that does.
I think being with people in that sort of open, intimate way is so psychedelic. That is medicine. I mean, just you could be stone cold sober, but being that connected with people in that way is like so beyond the regular planes that we seem to be monitoring at.
And that's when I find the connection, though. And I used to think that like it's not good to share myself. It's not good to like let what's inside out to people because they might not like me or whatever. But I realized sometimes that if I don't do that, then other people don't do that. First off, because it's like especially maybe being a man in our society, or growing up as a boy, wanting to be masculine, or not wanting to be having thoughts about that. once I was able to realize that my mind, in my subconscious mind, was split because of the trauma, and the way that I was able to experience an understanding that my mind was split was through plant medicine, 100%. But then exploring that with plant medicine, not just taking plant medicine, but taking plant medicine with the intention of understanding my own limitations and my own, blockage. Using my own imagination to connect to spirits that are beyond myself so that they can help me to see myself. And both of you are those things, as well as in my mind, because you are in my mind, but you're in my reality as well. It's like in realizing that, I know that whether I want to be that or not, that's what I am, so therefore I must talk about my limitations so that others can explore theirs. Because so many people are just the same. The split is the trauma, really, because it's where you lose connection with yourself. And then being able to refine that connection and to help other people to find their connection within themselves. That's all I'll care to do, because I felt so disconnected. I longed and yearned for someone to help me connect myself, and that's all I sought. I didn't realize that I had to connect it for myself. I just wanted somebody else to give it to me. But it's like, that's what I've realized, though, is I can't give it to somebody, but I can tell them how I gave it to myself. If they're listening, which you did, and it's okay if they're not, they're just not ready to hear it, you know what I mean? Or they didn't go through it or whatever, and it's, the mind is an unusual thing. This place is a weird place. We can be conditioned. We can be taught ways of being, and it's like having to unlearn all those things to then just kind of learn who we are is what I want to be a part of creating. And I can't just say that I have to do that, you know what I mean? But sometimes doing it is saying it, and
Thank you for being so open with your story. I'm so grateful to be in this space. It's a really big gift for you to articulate what's inside of you so that we can hold it. So thank you.
I'm very thankful for y'all.
Really thankful for you.
You know.
Inside your heart, you know what's true. And what could fool the light inside of you? Oh, it cannot. Got to be you. It's got to be you. But it's got to be tried. It's got to be tried. What darkness could fool the light inside? What darkness could fool the light inside? What darkness could fool the light inside?
If you enjoyed this conversation and you're new to the Unbroken Chain world, I just wanted to suggest that you might check out episode 20 with Poe. I thought about him a lot during this conversation with Nick, and that's one of my all-time favorite conversations. And the way that we ended up talking to Poe in a yurt in Vermont was pretty extraordinary. And for those of you actually that did hear that conversation, you'll be happy to know we were just texting recently, and he's been living on a farm in Vermont for the better part of a year, growing crops for food and raising a bevy of many animals and working on getting visitation rights with his daughter. Really, really good things. If you want to connect with me on the internet, I'm at marajames.com. and on Instagram at Mara James. I'll see you out there. Be well.